Oh no, we're not tearing this down. Welcome back, guys, to the Season 7 reviews for Game of Thrones. It's been a while. It's been over a year since the last episode. So, I was excited, naturally. Of course, I have a love-hate relationship with the show. If you watch my channel, you know that. There's a lot of things I hate about the show, but of course, there's a lot of things I love about it. I love more things than I hate about it, so that's a good thing, right? Anyways, let's get into this review. Season 7, Episode 1, Dragonstone. So, let's start off talking about Arya's scenes. We started this episode with a really cool scene. Well, Arya masked up herself as Walder Frey. He used his face, killed all of his sons at another feast, poisoned all of them, and it was a really good scene. And if you read the leaks, you knew that this was coming. As soon as it started, they skipped the opening, and they showed the scene first, and I really liked this scene. As much as it was kind of stupid how Arya killed him last season, how she somehow sneaked into the kitchens and baked his sons into a pie, the Frey pie scene from one of the books, I like this scene way more. It kind of made up for the crappy writing for Arya killing Walder Frey last season. But good stuff. I really like that scene. Good way to open the episode. And of course, also with Arya, she met Ed Sheeran. Yeah, we got an Ed Sheeran cameo in this episode. And I was actually quite surprised. I knew that he'd be in the show, but I didn't think he'd be in this early. Like, I know he'd have a cameo, and like his cameo was quite significant. He actually had a few lines, and he was singing and everything. And surprisingly, he's not that bad of an actor. So, in that scene, Arya meets a bunch of nice Lannister soldiers, like the nicest Lannister soldiers, I think, ever. And I honestly thought she'd kill them, just knowing how Arya's kind of a psychopath lately. But she didn't. She, like, saw that they were nice people, and she drank with them and ate with them, and she told them that she's going to kill Cersei, and they all just dismissed it as a joke. But it was a really good scene. Kind of felt fillery and kind of dragged on a bit. It felt a little unnecessary, but I really liked that scene. It kind of showed that not all Lannisters are bad. It's just the kind of complex gray area, which I thought the show didn't care about anymore. But Arya's not a complete psychopath, so that's good news. Also, of course, we have King's Landing. Scenes in King's Landing. Of course, Cersei and Jaime, like they do every single season in King's Landing since Season 5, always starts with a scene with Cersei and Jaime talking and arguing about something. This even happened in Season 1. It's happened in Season 1, 5, 6, and now 7. Always starts with these two arguing about something, and of course they argue about finding allies and how Cersei has no allies and she's got enemies everywhere. Jaime's not wrong. Cersei's kind of arrogant about it. So she brings in Euron. Euron is in this episode. I did not expect Euron to be in this episode. Euron Greyjoy, the awesome character he is from the books. I kind of didn't like him last season. I kind of felt like he was a bit of a joke. He was kind of too cocky, kind of a cliche douchebag villain. But they kind of did him better in this episode. We get to see a ship, the Silence, awesome ship from the books, the iconic Silence, and it looks really awesome. Like, the CGI for the ship looks really cool. And they get to set their alliance together. Euron kind of insults Cersei and Jaime a bit. I thought that was a really good banter between the two. He's kind of like roasting, I've got two hands, I'm looking for a queen. And of course, Cersei kind of rejects him, which is kind of stupid. They need allies, and I think she should have just took him in. But, you know, he says he'll be back with a gift, so I imagine he'll probably go and attack Dany's fleet or Yara and Theon's fleet and probably capture one of them or something, bring them to King's Landing, and then they'll probably settle their alliance and all that. Otherwise, King's Landing scenes I thought were pretty good in this episode. Better than last season's premiere for King's Landing scenes, because those were freaking boring. I'm glad the Faith Militant is gone. I'm glad Cersei got rid of them, because they had some really boring scenes. But this episode, I can just say I'm glad that they're gone. Of course, Winterfell, we have Jon kind of organizing the defense of the North. He's telling all his lords and bannermen that we got to start finding dragonglass, we got to start giving our castles back, and he gives the castles, like, of the Umbers and Karstarks back to them. Sansa says they shouldn't, and says they're traitors, and the land should be taken down, or the castle should be taken down, but Jon, being the good-hearted guy that he is, says, no, they get those castles back. Like, they didn't really do anything. Both of the traitors, Harold Karstark and Small Jon Umber, are dead, so why not give back to them? And I thought that was good, and that storyline kind of develops Jon and Sansa's conflict, which everyone kind of knew was coming. Sansa and Jon are going to have a conflict this season. They're going to be disagreeing with each other, and you can tell Littlefinger trying to pit them against each other. You can tell during that entire scene where they're arguing, Littlefinger's just kind of chuckling and smiling in the background. He's up to something, and I'm really excited to see where that's going to go. Other than that, Winterfell scenes were good. We get to see Brienne and Potter there too. They're kind of training. Tormund's kind of doing his thing. He's always flirting with Brienne. Get to see that. Good stuff. Didn't really have a problem with Winterfell scenes this episode. However, Lyanna Mormont, I kind of find her a bit annoying. I don't know, I know she's kind of a fan favorite. Everyone likes Lyanna Mormont, but I really do not like her character. But that's just me. I kind of find her a little bit too much. But anyways, that's just me. Of course, I do not like Lyanna Mormont, but that's not a bad thing. That's just my own personal thing. North of the Wall, we get to see the army of the dead in full force. The White Walkers, the Night King and his entire army marching south. And oh my god, they have giants on their side. White giants. I did not expect that. Like, I read a lot of the leaked plot, and I didn't see anything regarding white giants. So when I saw that, I was kind of excited. I'm like, white giants, how badass is that? This army is just getting more intimidating, and I'm so excited to see that. That was my favorite part of the episode. I know it was only like a 20-second scene, but it was so badass and ominous, and just to see the whole full force. They got like 3 giants. I'm so excited to see what these guys are going to do. I'm really looking forward to the Night's King and the White Walkers and Army of the Dead. And of course, Bran was looking at them because he was warging into it and he's seeing the Army of the Dead. Him and Mira arrive at the wall. Really quick scene. They meet Ed. I'm glad to see Ed again. Ed is one of my favorite minor characters in the show. Dolorous Ed. I've always loved Ed. Good to see him again. Not really much to say there. They just kind of arrive. Yeah. I'm just glad to see Ed, and I thought the White Walker scene was really badass and cool. Of course, Sam in Old Town, he's training to be a maester, and he had a lot of scenes in this episode. Sam Will Tarly had a lot of scenes, a lot of time in this episode, mostly dedicated to him showing his life at the Citadel. He's got to clean up all the chamber pots of all the quarantined and sick victims. He's like, there's this one long sequence. I liked how it was directed. I was just edited and like cut together of him cleaning his like regular life in the Citadel, and he's kind of tired of it. It's like a really, really shitty version of Hogwarts, literally, because he's cleaning shit and piss all the time, and I think it's pretty crappy job, but that's what it takes to be a maester. I kind of like Sam's character. Sam's not really a well-respected character in the fandom, but I always found Sam to be quite interesting. I like the scenes in this episode. We also get to meet the Archmaester Ebrose, that one character who he was talking about, the old guy, and I thought that was pretty cool to see him. He's a kind of a character in the books, he's not really in it that much, but he's mentioned a few times. Nice to see him. They're talking about Dragonglass and how no one believes him about the Army of the Dead, but he believes him, so that's nice to see that other people, kind of like in the South, believe about the White Walkers. I was interested to see that. It was very compelling. Of course, there's a lot of other scenes with Sam in this episode. He's with Gilly, and Gilly's baby's actually surprisingly getting older, because Gilly's baby was born in Season 3, and now it looks like he's at least 2, almost 3 years old. So good to see that plot hole's kind of being covered up a bit. Not really, but it's getting there. The baby should be like 4 or 5 years old, but anyways, it doesn't matter. It's not really a big deal, but they find out that there's Dragonglass on Dragonstone. Sam already knew about that, and they get to mention Stannis, my boy Stannis. They mention Stannis, and they kind of develop that, okay, I gotta send a letter to Jon and tell him that there's Dragonglass at Dragonstone. So we're gonna see more development with that. Very good plot development, especially with Sam. And of course, he meets Jorah. Jorah is at the Citadel, and I figured that, because Dany told him to find the cure, and we get to see his arm in one of the quarantine boxes, and he's like reaching out. It's kind of like a jump scare, but I expected that. I knew that. You see his hand, you see his arm in the trailer, and it was really cool to see Jorah again, and like Sam kind of got spooked by him. So it's really interesting. We haven't seen Jorah for quite a while, since like season 6, episode 5. So it was nice to see that Jorah is still alive, still going. I like Jorah's character, so it was awesome. I'm glad to see that. And Sam's scenes are really good. There wasn't really anything wrong with them. Developed the plot quite well. Wasn't boring, because Sam's usually has a lot of boring scenes, but this episode, they did him justice. Like, he had a lot of scenes in the episode, and I wasn't really bored once. So that's definitely saying something. Next, of course, we have the Brotherhood Without Banners and Sandor Clegane, the Hound. And I found their scenes to be really, really good. So basically, back in Season 4, when Arya and the Hound are traveling, they run into that farmer and his daughter, and at the end, the Hound says, "They'll both be dead come winter," and the Brotherhood and the Hound happen to stumble upon the house that they were at, and he finds their dead bodies there, and him and Thoros and Beric are kind of talking about like the Lord of Light, how he joined up with them. A lot of witty banter, and there's a really interesting and compelling dynamic between these 3 characters. They're probably my favorite group. I love the Brotherhood and the Hound. I'm really loving their character development this season. It's really, I can tell it's going to be really good. I can't wait to see what's going to happen with them. I love all these characters. Beric's dead in the books, but I'm glad they kept him alive in the show. Thoros is really cool. The Hound's always been awesome. I really enjoyed the dynamic between these characters. Really good acting, really good dialogue between the two. We get to see Thoros and the Hound kind of looking into the flames. They see a vision of the Wall and the Night's King and all that. So I imagine they're going to be probably going to the Wall to go fight the Night's King. It's pretty awesome. Of course, the Hound buries the bodies of the farmer and his daughter. Good character development for him. There's some really good character development for him. That's really solid stuff, and like this episode surprised me with some of the writing. The Brotherhood was probably the most solid and well-written part of this episode, which is great. I love all the characters in the Brotherhood, and I think they did a great job with them this episode. They should keep it up. Lastly, we have Team Targaryen, so Dany's team. They basically, just a quick scene, no dialogue. They arrive at Dragonstone, kind of just go in there and rip down Stannis' flag. Yeah, it was in the trailer, so I wasn't mad about it. I was expecting it. I'm like, okay, yeah, Dany's gonna arrive at Dragonstone, rip down Stannis' flag. But you know what? Dragonstone looks really, really good in this episode. It kind of sucks that we didn't really get to see Dragonstone from those angles when Stannis was at Dragonstone back in season 2, 3, and 4. We kind of just saw it from 2 or 3 angles, and that's it. But in this, we get to see it from like 10 different angles and all these different wide shots of like the interior and the exterior of the castle. It looks really good. Of course, they're gonna beef it up for Dany because the showrunners love Dany more than they love Stannis, obviously. But anyways, that's not a bad thing about the episode. I thought it was really cool. It looked really good. Dragonstone looked really good. The CGI and set decorations for that, really good stuff. But other than that, I can't really say too much about it. I kind of find it stupid how Dragonstone was completely unguarded. Stannis didn't leave any soldiers there, or there were no pirates or like anyone else who just went to the island to like take it over. It's just completely empty, which is kind of stupid. It's not really that big of a problem, but you know, just knowing, when you know about like medieval history, or not like history, just like tactics and stuff like that, an island like that would have people on it. It wouldn't be completely empty. But other than that, I'm glad that that scene had no dialogue, because we didn't get to hear Daenerys speak, which is a good thing, because I hate Daenerys. So, anyways, guys, that's pretty much it from the episode. I actually enjoyed it, surprisingly. As much as I can kind of hate the show sometimes, there wasn't really anything that bothered me too much. However, there were a few scenes I felt like kind of dragged on. I felt a bit fillery and unnecessary, like the scene with Arya and the Lannister soldiers. But, you know, I thought this episode moved the plot along quite solidly, and there was a few standout scenes, like I said, the White Walker scene, and Arya killing Mulder Frey's sons. I thought those were really standout scenes, and they really made me enjoy the episode. Of course, the dynamic with the Brotherhood, the Hound, Thoros and Beric, really good stuff. I'm loving the character development and the dialogue and the acting between those guys. Really, really good stuff. They're, like I said, they're my new favorite group in the show. I'm really loving them. But other than that, this is definitely a solid premiere, and I'm going to give it a B+. Thanks again for watching, guys. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you're new. It'll really help out. I'm Rice Duke, and I'll see you guys later.